All right. Just give me 1 second. We should be live, but okay. All right, Barry, we're live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We are on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ross, and with me this evening is Barry Adkins, author Barry Adkins from Arizona.
Yes.
Hot 80 degrees, Arizona. Barry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uh, the reason why we're talking is because you wrote a book, and the book is titled Kevin's Last Walk, right?
hmm
Uh, you gave me some detail about the book, and I wanted you to share your story of your son, Kevin being your son, and what led you to write this book. And before we get started with that, Barry, I just want to say this to people that are listening. If you guys have any questions during our interview, please present it, and I will ask Barry the question, or if it's related to myself, I will answer the question. But either way, if you guys have any questions to ask during this interview, please do so. Uh, with that being said, Barry, you got the floor, brother.
All right. Well, I'll start with a brief explanation of what happened, and then we can talk about the book. So, my 18-year-old son Kevin had just graduated from high school. He got a job right out of high school, working for an electrician, making good money. He met my financial requirements, so I agreed to co-sign a loan because he wanted to buy a new truck. And for the audience, I made him give me 3 months worth of insurance payments and car payments before I'd co-sign that loan, right? Because I didn't want to be on the hook for it. His deal, not
Yeah.
mine.
Right, right, right.
And I'm hoping he finds a truck from a private party. I'll go down to the credit union, sign papers, and be out of there in about 5 minutes. He found one at a dealership, and I have a healthy dislike for that process because I know when I walk in there, they're going to try to sell me stuff I don't want or need. I go down to the dealership, sit down in the financial guy's office. The first thing that guy said to me was, "How about some life insurance?" And I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm not here for life insurance. I don't need any life insurance. My wife will do just fine if something happens to me." And he said, "I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your son."
Mm,
I'm that guy.
mm,
I'm that guy who rather indignantly told him that 18-year-old boys don't need life insurance because they don't die. But I was wrong. They do die.
mm-hmm.
He wouldn't live long enough to make a single payment on that truck. So he's graduated from high school. He's got money in the bank. Next thing he wants to do is move out, right? And I remember him sitting down in this brown chair that sits in front of a big picture window that looks out over our backyard. He sat down in that brown chair and started talking about how he couldn't believe his life was finally beginning and he wanted to move out and start life. And I did my best to discourage him because honestly, we really never had any problems with him. His high school principal didn't even know who he was. And I
Mm.
considered that a good thing. But I didn't have any luck talking him out of it. So a couple weeks later, his buddy Craig came over. They started the process. He threw a bed, a TV, and a dresser in his new truck. That was his definition of moving out for the day. And when he was back in the house, I remember him coming in the living room and telling me he wasn't going to take his toothbrush with him. He'd be back tomorrow morning and grab it. I walked out front with him like I normally do, gave him a hug, told him that I loved him and to be careful. Watched him drive away. It was the last time I saw him alive. That night, his friends decided to throw a little housewarming party for him. Started with a keg of beer, moved on to shots.
Mm.
He left a voicemail for his sister that night, talking about how much fun they were having, how drunk he was. He passed out a short time after he left that voicemail. The people at the party laid him in his bed on his side in case he vomited. But
Mm.
his buddy Craig was worried about him, kept going back in to check on him. Around 4 a.m., calls started coming into 911. First calls were difficulty breathing. Next calls, not breathing. My son died alone in a hospital while I slept peacefully in my bed.
You didn't know that this was that nobody called you?
No, no, no phone call, no nothing. Next morning, Sunday morning, my wife and I are sitting around drinking coffee, talking about what we're going to do or not do that day. And about 8:30 in the morning, the doorbell rings. And we're looking at each other because we weren't expecting company. And I open the door and I see two police officers and somebody in plain clothes at my front door. Should have been a big red flag, right?
Mm, mm,
Yeah, it should have been, but I'm that guy.
right.
It didn't even occur to me that something bad had happened, Mark. I actually joked with them as they came in, thinking this had to have something to do with a dog or a parked car. I had nothing, man. But they didn't laugh at any of my jokes. One of the officers and the person in plain clothes stayed by the front door. The other officer walked in and stood in front of that brown chair that Kevin had sat in 2 weeks before and talked about how his life was finally beginning. He said there'd been an accident. Their son is dead. We asked who, because we have a number of children. And he said it was Kevin, and he handed me his driver's license. There's something pretty final about it when a police
Yeah,
officer hands you your child's driver's license.
yeah,
Because until that exact moment in time, you're holding out hope, man. This is all a big mistake. You misspelled the last name. Get out of here.
yeah,
You need to be 3 streets over, next door, any place but my place. But when they hand you your child's driver's license, you know he's gone and he's never coming back. One of us finally asked what had happened, and they said that the probable cause of death was alcohol poisoning. His BAC was 0.36%. Very drunk. It's the only statistic I ever mention, and the only reason I mention it is because if you're ever in that situation, think about Kevin's buddy Craig. It's a night he has never forgotten. I can only describe the days, weeks, and months after that as dark. I was angry with God,
sure,
and I told him so.
sure.
I I tried to bargain with him. Like, look, you're God. Back up time. Take me. Let him live. And I don't think I'm unique in that thought process as a parent. I think any parent would say that. A couple days later, I had another life changing event. I was laying in bed. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And the only way I can describe it is I felt like someone walked in the room. I'm sure you've had that sensation in the past where you thought, did somebody
Yeah,
just walk in?
yeah.
And then there was a light that I'd never seen before
Hmm.
and haven't seen since. And the message was pretty easy. Kevin didn't suffer, and something very good would come from this. I'm not here to tell you it made everything okay, because it didn't. But it gave me a mission, Mark. And that mission is to try to make something very good come from such a senseless tragedy.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, first off, my condolences to you, brother Barry. I can't imagine uh, being as strong as you are, having to even have the strength to share your story. I mean, that requires some God level strength. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
him, not me.
Right, right,
Let me
right.
say.
Truly him, not you. Uh,
Yes.
uh, uh, how did you deal with that after the phone call, after the visit, after the realization, hit you in the face? I mean, what was there? What was there?
What was there was wanting to go check on him. If you think about it, ballpark where your kids are all the time, right? And now I don't know, before that, before the light, as I like to say, I'm thinking, well, where is he?
Mm,
Right? And
mm,
and you just you're amazed that people are still driving down the road.
mm.
You
Mhm.
look out and you see life going on and you think, do they not know what just happened? But one of the things that I made clear from the very beginning is we weren't going to play any blame games. I'm not going to blame anybody for anything they did. This was Kevin's choice. This was his decision. And there's just no money in playing that blame game.
Yeah.
Look, it's
Mm,
not healthy for anybody.
mm. Did you knew that Kevin had a drinking issue?
He, I had suspected that he had drank a couple times, but I never saw anything where I thought, oh, this is a problem. There was never any of that. And then the next question is, did you ever talk to him about that? And the answer to that is not really, because I talked to him a lot about drugs, right?
Sure.
We had a
Yeah.
lot of discussions about that.
Yeah.
But we have a close relative who was an alcoholic. And he always talked about how stupid he was and how he's never going to let that happen to himself.
Mm. And look what happened.
And look what happened. Exactly.
Wow. So so there wasn't any red flags.
No, there wasn't. There really wasn't.
Mm.
I'm sure if I could rewind time, there may have been things that I maybe could have picked up on, but there wasn't any obvious red flags that there was an ongoing issue here.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the relationship you had with your son.
I had a good relationship with him. He was not a particularly good student, a lot like his old man. I barely
Mhm.
got out of high school. Um, a lot of interesting conversations. He was actually flunking his English class in March of his senior
Oh,
year in high
oh
school,
my goodness.
and I called the teacher, to ask all those questions. Did he show up today? Did he turn? His biggest problem was he would not. He would do assignments, Mark, and just never turn them in.
What?
I never understood it. But the teacher actually went back into class and reported back to him in front of all of his buddies that his daddy called to check on him.
Oh,
And then I got the phone call. Knock it off. Stop calling my teachers. And I'm like, look, dude, this is the only class you're even close on. You know what to do. Just take care of it.
yeah.
And after the high school graduation ceremony, he gave me a hug and whispered, thanks for not giving up on me, Dad.
Mm. I'm pausing because I'm just letting this whole thing resonate for a second. You know,
Understood.
uh, uh, we 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 as fathers, especially Barry, we expect the best from our kids, and when they don't exhibit it, uh, we get upset. Or we express our frustrations with our kids, and expressing our frustrations or whatever to our kids doesn't mean that we're giving up. They may look at it like, oh, he's not proud of me, or you know what I'm saying, he's unhappy with me, but most times it's not that. We don't like how you what you're doing, but that doesn't mean that we don't love you. You get what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
and maybe your son was in a semi-rebellious state at that point, because all kids go through it. We all go through it, right?
They grow out of it, but at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
age, 100%.
yeah. They go through it. They go some unfortunately, start that rebellious phase younger in life. So, I mean, hey, it is what it is. But I'm just trying to stress the point that you didn't give up on them.
And I still haven't.
Some parents would have.
Yeah.
Some parents would have been, you're not going to amount to be shit. You
Yeah,
know, I'm trying to get you to do this. I'm trying to get you to do, that counting, you know, and sometimes that doesn't work.
right.
Some, sometimes I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes a kid doesn't need this.
No,
They need this.
yeah. You got to make sure they know that you love them and you're there for them. And really, we grew up in different generation, right? To say that my parents were tough on me is not a fair description, right? I mean, that's the way it was. But I always knew that I didn't, because there's belts involved in it. You know what I'm talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
misbehave, and that's the way principals were. That's the way teachers were. If you misbehaved, you were
Yeah,
going to pay for it.
go pay for it.
And I knew that I didn't want to do it that way. So these things evolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure my dad raised me different than he was raised. I raised my kids different than the way I was raised. Our kids will raise their kids differently, better for worse than we did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you laid the foundation of the life that you have with your son. Uh, when did it when did you write the book?
So after we got his remains, now we got to decide what to do with his ashes, right?
Mm,
And I had grown up in Kalispell, Montana. Kevin had been there a number of times and was talked about wanting to move there someday and buy a ranch. So we decided to take his ashes from Gilbert, Arizona to Kalispell, Montana. But I decided, and I think it was a God thing. Uh, I decided to put him in my backpack and walk there, 1,400 miles from Gilbert to Kalispell, and tell the story along the way. Because I guarantee you, you don't ever want to go through this.
mm, mm,
It was
mm,
an incredible journey, Mark. I, I look back on it and think, man, that's a lot of miles.
mm. Man. So what was your goal of walking from Montana to Arizona?
Well, in the beginning, it's kind of interesting how when things like this, and other things have happened since then, but the idea evolved. It started as I'm going to walk the Continental Divide. I'm not going to stop at schools. I'm not going to tell anybody the story. I'm just going to go walk the Continental Divide. But then the idea to stop and tell the story, um, and let others be aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And these things all evolved. The original idea to walk to Montana, um, and again, it was a God thing, but his favorite movie was Lonesome Dove. I don't know if you've
Mm,
ever seen it or not,
yeah.
but Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, quite. It's a very different Western, but that's where the idea came from because that was his favorite movie, and in my mind, that's how I put it all together.
Mm, okay. Okay.
Then you got to do these things like figure out how you're going to do it, right? And people tried to talk me out of it. A lot of people, including my employer. I had relatives try to talk me out of it, and I don't blame them for doing that because I think they were all afraid I was going to fail. And I don't, you can't blame somebody for that, right?
Mm,
They don't want to see you fail. But in all my conversations, I still distinctly remember one, and this is an interesting one. I was talking to this guy about it, and he turned and said to me, "How do you think you'd feel about it in 10 years if you don't do it?" And for me, that sealed the deal,
yeah.
right? If you think about, I should have done it. I didn't want to have that regret.
Wow. How long did it take you to do that?
Took about 4 months. I averaged around 90 or 95 miles a week. I told the story, I don't know, 40 times somewhere along the way. We had this predates all the cool stuff they have today.
Yeah,
Mark, this is get out a map and say,
yeah,
I think I can get from here to here because I had to tell there's an organization here in town, not my kid, that set up the speaking stuff. I had to tell them when I'm going to be in each town. So I had to get out a map and say, okay, it's about this far. If I'm at 90 miles a week, where is that going to put me? What days am I going to be in these towns? So there was a lot of logistics to think about there.
wow. Okay. So so now you're going around speaking out, on your son's story. Um, thank you again for that. What's the message that you want to convey to everybody when you go to speak?
The message I convey is that it can happen to them. And as the way I tell things now, is I make sure everybody knows up front I'm just there to tell them a story. I'm not here to tell anybody how they live their lives.
Hmm.
But there are takeaways. Um, and we'll just touch on the last one because I think it's probably the most important, this thing called forgiveness. Because it was easy for me to forgive the guys at the party because this was Kevin's choice, right? It was his decision. And it's easy to forgive your kid because that's what parents do, right? But there's one person that was really hard to forgive, and that was me. It took 1,400 miles and 5 pairs of shoes, but I have found a way to forgive myself.
Mm.
A pastor described it best once. He said that anger and vengeance are going to lead to one thing: destruction. Forgiveness leads to healing. And sometimes the most important person you need to forgive is yourself. We all make mistakes. It's the way you handle it that matters.
Amen. Amen. And we tend to walk around with so much guilt and baggage that we just run our lives down to the dirt. And
Yep.
you said it. You said it all right there, brother. We have to forgive ourselves, to really begin that healing process.
Yeah. And for me, the most you can hope for when something bad happens is to try to make something very good come from it. All these bad things happen. The most you can hope for is try to make something good come from it. And I think that message didn't come from me, and that's a message I've repeated hundreds, if not thousands of times.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally get it, man. Totally get it. Uh, I know we spoke during our initial interview, Barry. We spoke, and you mentioned something about the prevention industry, and I'm assuming you mean the alcohol and drug prevention industry.
Right.
Uh, can you talk to me about your feelings as it relates to that prevention industry, and if there's anything that they can do to improve? Talk about that.
Well, the thing is that the rehab industry, after people are addicted, that industry, from what I've read, is somewhere around $35 billion a year. And we spend almost nothing on prevention. Most schools, most of the time when I go speak, I don't get paid for any of that because
Mm,
there is no budget for that. And the analogy I like to give is you walk into a house and there's water everywhere and it's spraying out of the faucet and people are out there with their mops and their rags and they're cleaning up all that water. And everybody's focused on that and nobody shuts off the faucet. We got to shut the faucet off, man, or
mm,
it's never going to go away.
yeah, yeah,
It's just never going to go away.
yeah, yeah. Because we have a lot of agencies that that have been created to uh, help those that are going through AODA issues, and we have rehab facilities and whatnot. But I would even venture to say, though, that the true foundation of recovery starts within yourself. Nobody can make you do jack. You have to want to do
You know, and you're spot on with that because obviously I've had a lot of conversations with recovering addicts, and every single one of them say exactly that.
it. Hmm.
I just woke up one day, or one day I said, "This is stupid. I'm
Yeah.
going to stop doing it. I'm not doing it for my mother or my brother or my sister or my wife. I'm doing it because I know I need to do it." And that's to your point. That's where it starts.
Yeah. It starts with you.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like the old saying, Barry, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Exactly.
You're right.
That's exactly correct.
I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's
uh,
it's it's a problem. And um, the problem's only getting bigger,
mm,
not getting smaller, I don't think.
no, no, no. And I did a little research on uh AODA statistics and whatnot, and it said that there's been a decline in the number of AODA related, I guess, overdoses,
Okay.
but but it still goes back to what I just said previously. You got to want it.
You got to want it. How
You,
bad do you want it?
yeah, you got to want that change. Nobody, we can talk you each other till we're blue in the face. You know what I'm saying? But the action has to come from you. And unt- until we see more of that, I mean, and I'm hoping that the numbers continue to decline, Barry. But
Me too.
uh, uh, I'm still going to stick with what I said, that people got to want to change, and if they don't, it, you're going to lead yourself into destruction and chaos.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I don't know what
I
else to say.
it's kind of interesting. It kind of reminds me of one of the other things I talk about because people often ask me, did I ever think about quitting when I was doing this walk? The answer to that is no. But I wasn't even out of Arizona before I started wondering what I'd gotten myself into. I'm thinking, I'm not even out of Arizona and I'm tired. I got
Mm,
knee problems, blisters, plantar fasciitis, all that stuff.
yeah.
But I realized that I was thinking about it different than I should. Because I was thinking about 1,200 miles to go, and I decided to not think about that anymore. I thought about walking 3 more miles, take a break,
Mm,
get up and do it again.
mm,
And it's a good analogy for life and for addiction. You think, well, I don't know if I can stay sober the rest of my life. Okay, fair enough. But can you stay sober for an hour or
mm,
a day?
mm,
Right? Because
mm.
you look at the future and you think, man, there's no way I can get there because it's such a big thing. But it's those little tiny steps, baby steps.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm just sitting here thinking as you were talking, and I want to ask you this personal question. If you had a chance to speak with your son for a minute, what would you say to him?
Well, first you tell them, how much you love them and you miss them. But for me, I would say, well, am I doing the right thing? Are you happy with what I'm doing here? Because um, as he said to me, thanks for not giving up on me. Um, I still haven't given up on him 20 years later.
Mm,
And I'm pretty sure he's smiling down, but he would for sure give me a hard time about something. He just would. That's,
He wouldn't be Kevin, right?
he wouldn't be Kevin if he wasn't busting your chops.
Barry, do you have any other projects coming down the pike, or you're just focusing on your book and speaking out?
Well, I wrote the book. I do have another project. It is not complete yet, but I'm going to tell you about it. Um, so one of the questions I get asked that's fairly common is what you just said. What else? What else you going to do? And I always think, I don't know. I think I've done enough, right? I think I'll just do the speaking and kind of ride off into the sunset. And
Mm,
then someone said, well, why don't you do a walk? I'm thinking, where you invite people and everybody goes and walks. And I thought, I don't know, you set all that up and 20 people show up,
right.
right?
Yeah.
But it occurred to me, maybe it isn't about me, it's about everybody else. So what we're doing, it's called a Million Mile Challenge. And anybody who knows someone who has died of an overdose or is still addicted, um, they can go out, they can sign up, they'll be able to walk however far they want. They define how far they're going to walk and how long it's going to take them. And together, we can do 1,000,000 miles. And the idea is for other people to honor their loved ones and to raise awareness. Because it's really not about me at this point. It's about it's something that everyone else can do. And they'll be able to define all that. They'll be able to sign up more than once if they want. We're working those details out, but it's a big project.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, how can people contact you, Barry?
It's on the website is kevinslastwalk.com. I post everything on Facebook. On Facebook, it's just Kevin's Last Walk, all one word. Or if you just type in my name, I think it comes up. I think it comes up now. Once you do a few podcasts,
Okay.
Mark, your name pops
Kevin's
up.
kevinslastwalk.com.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And the new one will be millionmilechallenge.net. It's
Million Mile
not released
Challenge.
yet. I'm going to make sure I let everybody know about it when it's released, but it's probably a few months. You can imagine the website's going to be, I want it to be really interactive. I want people to be able to post a picture of why they're walking and a paragraph so that everybody's story can be out there, right? I want people to be able to tell their story because that's what we all want to hear, right?
Yeah.
We want to read the stories.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome. Uh, Barry, I wish you nothing but success in your upcoming project. Uh, I wish you success for your book that you got out. Do you have a copy of the book that you can show right quick?
I can. I have that right here. There it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, this book is called Kevin's Last Walk. Barry Adkins. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me about your
Yeah,
son
absolutely.
and about your walk and your book and your journey. Sir, I greatly appreciate it.
You bet. Well, thanks for having me on, Mark.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for paying attention and watching this podcast. As I always say, it's okay to not be okay. Just do something about it. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Guys, have a good evening. Barry, enjoy that good weather out there, brother.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Yes, sir. Take care.